the Most High Yah by way of Yahushua HaMashiach this day, and we'll say, search the scriptures, for in them you think you have eternal life, and they are they which testify of me. And you will not come to me that you might have life. I receive not honor from men, but I know you, that you have not the love of Elohim in you. He said, I come in my Father's name, and you receive me not. If another shall come in his own name, him you shall receive. How can you believe that receive honor one from another, and seek not the honor that comes from Elohim only? So let's look at 2 Chronicles chapter 21. This is after Jehoshaphat has died. We'll be going backwards, so to speak, in a chronological standpoint. So let's bear with it. 2 Chronicles 21:1. Now Jehoshaphat slept with his fathers and was buried with his fathers in the city of David, and Jehoram his son reigned in his stead. And he had brethren, the sons of Jehoshaphat, Azariah, Jehiel, Zechariah, Azariah, Michael, Sheptiah, and all these were the sons of Jehoshaphat, the Malach of Yasharal. And their father gave them great gifts of silver and of gold and of precious things, with fenced cities in Yehudah, but the kingdom he gave to Jehoram because he was the firstborn. Now when Jehoram was risen up to the kingdom of his father, he strengthened himself and slew all his brethren with the sword, and divers also of the princes of Yasharal. Jehoram was 32 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 8 years in Jerusalem. He walked in the way of the Malachs of Yasharal, like as did the house of Ahab, for he had the daughter of Ahab to wife, and he wrought that which was evil in the eyes of Yahuwah. Howbeit, Yahuwah would not destroy the house of David because of the covenant that he made with David, as he promised to give a light to him and to his sons forever. So now let's back all this all the way back up, and let's look at this right here. He said he gave all his sons silver and gold and precious things, but good old Jehoram rose up and killed all his brothers with the sword. And why did he do it? Because he married the daughter of Ahab. So even though it's like it seems like it's the same thing over and over again, but truth be told, in this word, it's just a lot of things that you just get reiterated when you pay attention to people's behavior. Now, if he married the daughter of Ahab, then you know that he married an idolater. He married a very, very wicked person. And let's look at 1 Corinthians chapter 15, and let's see what the effect of that is, and to see how that goes. I seen a dude post something, I shared it myself, and it's a true statement. Spiritual men are not a dime a dozen. Just like the book say that a virtuous woman is hard to find, her price is far above rubies. That means they're very rare. Now, if we go by the account of it's more women than men on the earth, if a virtuous woman is rare, then truth be told, that means a righteous man is even rarer. You know what I'm saying? Because it's more women than men. So you would think by product of it being more women that there would be a better chance of you finding a virtuous woman. Do you know what I'm saying? But they're rare, which means if the male population is smaller than the women population, that means they're even rarer. So the type of people that you choose to be around can highly influence your behavior and your course of action. And then you notice that Jehoram is Jehoshaphat's son. Jehoshaphat didn't. Let's hold on before we go in further. Let's look at 2 Chronicles 17, so you can see what type of man Jehoshaphat was, because he wasn't no transgressor. So what would cause his son to go off the deep end? 2 Chronicles 17, right? And let's look at verse 3. And it says, and Yahuwah was with Jehoshaphat, because he walked in the first ways of his father David, and sought not unto Balaam, but sought to Yahuwah Elohim of his father, and walked in his commandments, and not after the doings of Yasharal. So Jehoshaphat didn't go sideways. Yet we see right over here in chapter 21 that his son went after the house of Ahab, and it said because for he had is letting me know that the daughter of Ahab was in direct correlation in relation to his behavior, based on the context of how the sentence is structured. Let's look at 1 Corinthians 15 though, and verse 33. You know, people don't like to acknowledge it. People don't like to admit it. But The people that you have around and the people you have close to you can truly dictate your course of action and the way that you go. You know what I'm saying? Ahab clearly wasn't committed to Yahuwah because we done already went over all the wicked stuff that he had going on. We just haven't went back and looked at his judgment yet of what he caught for what he had going on. And now this man peels. If you sit back and look at your daddy as a righteous man, why would you marry a wicked woman? If you were a righteous person, period, female or male, don't make no difference. Why would you join yourself to someone who is diametrically opposed to what you got going on? Now, this is an example. Like, dudes get mad about this all the time, right? We're just talking about this. Some of us like this here, right? Yah did not tell you not to marry particular people because of their race. He told you not to marry them because they were idolaters. So we turn around and look at, we feel like it's cool to marry somebody just because they are brute, but they wicked though. So there's really no difference. You know what I'm saying? There's no difference. Remember, he said in Jeremiah, that Edom, Moab, and Egypt were uncircumcised in the flesh, but Yasharal was uncircumcised in the heart. So the uncircumcision in the heart was akin to the uncircumcision of these people's flesh because they had no sign of the covenant of Yahuwah with them. You both had the covenant, the sign of the covenant in your heart. They didn't have the sign of the covenant in their flesh. So both of them were outside of the covenant. Therefore, they ought to die. So then we turn around and we looking for people, no matter what capacity they serve in your life, and they don't have the sign of the covenant of Yahuwah in their heart, and you think because they black it's straight, and it's not straight. 1533. Be not deceived, because evil communications corrupt good manners. Awake to righteousness and sin not, for some have not the knowledge of Elohim. I speak this to your shame. Regardless of what you want to think or what you want to believe, evil people will cause you to go astray, and you'll end up suffering the same penalty and destruction that they're going to suffer for following them. Matter of fact, since I'm going in this direction, Psalms 122. I've been holding this Psalms 122 for a few weeks. Psalms 122. Psalms 122. 122 and 1. Matter of fact, I just like to say, man, I just want you to consider each and every single solitary man, woman, and child can do whatever it is that they want to do. But if you sit back and you believe the word, you got to be able to pay attention to the examples of the things. Matter of fact, let's look at Romans 15 before we even go further with Psalm 122. Just like 1 Corinthians chapter 10 tell you, what they got going on. All these things are written for your learning. Well, as they said, like I said in 1 Corinthians 10, my apologies, that these things are an example. They're an example. They're an example. All these people are examples. Look here, Romans 15 and 1. We then that are strong ought to bear the infirmities of the weak, and not to please ourselves. Let every one of us please his neighbor for his good to edification. For even Mashiach pleased not himself, but as it is written, the reproaches of them that reproach thee fell on me. For whatsoever things were written aforetime were written for our learning, that we through patience and comfort of the scriptures might have hope. These things are not just to point out and be like, oh, don't be stupid. Oh man, this, that, and the third. It's for you to have comfort to know what can occur if you patiently wait on Yah. See, a lot of us don't wait on Yah, so you don't get that comfort. See, there are many men in this book, they waited on Yah for numerous different reasons and numerous different situations, and Yah comforted their heart. The book say, blessed is those that mourn, for they'll be comforted. The book say, hope deferred make a heart sick, but when desire come, there'll be joy brought to it. You know what I'm saying? There's certain things that you waiting on and you don't get them, it makes you very, very sad. Get Proverbs 10 and 12 for y'all that may not know where that's at, what I just told y'all. See, right now your heart's sick because you're sitting in this country and our people are suffering, and your hope is that you be delivered from these God-awful and God-forsaken people. And no matter anywhere in the four corners of the earth where we dwell. Oh man, I think that Proverbs 13 and 7 I mentioned. So it's definitely not 10 and 12. No, that's not either. Quote the verse right. I can't remember where it is. That's how you know my mind getting bad. We can use Proverbs 10 and 12 though for what we got going on for this evening though. Proverbs 10 and 12 tell you that hatred stir up strife, but love cover all sins. So these two wicked niggas that we looking at today, they didn't manifest anything to cover up any sins. Jehoshaphat did though. Give me a second while I find the verse that I actually wanted. Yeah, I was right. It was Proverbs 13, but it's verse 12. Proverbs 13 and 12. It wasn't verse 7, it was verse 12. What do we have? 13 and 12. Here it is right here. Say, hope deferred make the heart sick, but when the desire come, it is a tree of life. We had to sit back and look at clearly Jehoram's desire was not to Yahuwah. His desire was to his own flesh. That's why his hatred stirred up strife. Not strife with man, with strife with Yah, which we're going to end up getting to see if I move along a little bit more expeditiously. So we have to sit back and look at something that we know that when we commit sin and transgression and go after. Remember what we looked at in 2 Chronicles 19 on Shabbat. It says, how do you help them that hate Yah and help the ungodly and love those that hate Yah? That's what we just talked about. When you have a hatred for Yah, it stirs up strife. Not just strife with man, but you stir up strife with Elohim, because now he has a quarrel or a problem with you. You know what I'm saying? Now we sit back and look at Jehoram. Yah has a problem with him. Not only because he married a wicked woman, but that he's done this here. Isaiah 3 and 12. This is what kept Yasharal in trouble repeatedly. This is what got most people on this planet, irregardless if they are the seed of Yasharal or not, in trouble. Isaiah 3 and 12. And it says, as for my people, children are their oppressors, and women rule over them. O my people, they which lead thee cause thee to err and destroy the way of thy paths. Yahuwah stand up to plead and stand to judge the people. Yahuwah will enter into judgment with the ancients of his people and the princes thereof, for you have eaten up the vineyard, and the spoil of the poor is in your houses. Matter of fact, that's another thing that I'm sitting there thinking about. Let's look at Matthew chapter 23 real fast, because he's sitting back and you look at it, right? Ahab's daughter, which we know what Ahab pulled, is Ahab took the spoil of a man's vineyard, we know Naboth, and put it in his house and tried to make it his. And that's what a lot of men sit back and they try to do, especially with women. They try to spoil the women and take these riches into their own houses. They try to spoil the people and take these riches into their own houses. Because clearly, and yes, what Jehoram did himself. Jehoshaphat gave his brothers all these inheritance, the gold, the silver, and all these things, and he killed them all and he took it. You know how evil you got to be that your daddy gives your brothers this and give you the kingdom, and you not satisfied with that. You know what I'm saying? It's a verse in either Ecclesiastes or Proverbs that talk about that. That you give a man some silver and he's still not satisfied. Because no matter what some people get, they still not satisfied. As a matter of fact, since we said that, we'll go to 1 Timothy 6 right after this. What is it, Matthew chapter 23? And about verse 13, I suppose. But woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for you shut up the kingdom of Shamahim against men. For you neither go in yourselves, neither you suffer ye them that are entering in. Suffer ye them that are entering to go in. Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for you devour widows' houses, and for a pretense make long prayer. Therefore you shall receive the greater damnation. Now, of course, he didn't devour a literal widow, but he devoured his brother's houses, to devour everything that they possessed because of greed. Do you know what I'm saying? And that hatred that he clearly had for his brother, because it stirred up strife for him to kill his brothers. But everything can go about this just to show you about the company that you keep. Because it's ironic that he would do this to his brothers, messing with Ahab's daughter, when that's exactly what Ahab did, messing with probably Ahab's daughter's mother, because it doesn't state he have another wife. So we're just going to state plainly, according to the text, this is Jezebel's daughter. Now, of course, we don't have any text to say she encouraged him to do it, but it ain't no shock. I wouldn't be shocked. Matter of fact, it's a book in something in Ezekiel about that. Let's read 1 Corinthians chapter 6, and then we'll go to Ezekiel for that. First Timothy, not 1 Corinthians. 1 Timothy chapter 6. Six and 10, I suppose. If I can get around to that letter, we might be able to get something popping. 1 Corinthians Timothy, I keep saying Corinthians. 1 Timothy 6 and 10. But we'll go ahead and start about verse 5. Perverse disputings of men of corrupt minds and destitute of the truth, supposing that gain is godliness, from such withdraw thyself. Now, we've already told you that numerous times, that if you think because you get some type of gain or profit, that means God with you and you live in contrary to the word, the book say your mind is perverse and corrupt, and that you might want to get away from somebody like that. But godliness with contentment is great gain. For we brought nothing into this world, and it is certain we can carry nothing out of it. And having food and raiment, let us be therewith content. But they which shall be rich fall into temptation and a snare, and the many foolish and hurtful lusts, which drown men in destruction and perdition. For the love of money is the root of all evil, which some coveted after. They erred from the faith and pierced themselves through with many sorrows. Now, of course, we're going to see that with Jehoram in a few moments. He pierced himself through with some sorrows, not only because for his love of money and not being content of what he had, but also because of his disobedience. Don't worry about Psalms 122. I think that's Ezekiel 16 that I desire. Let me see what verse we need. Ezekiel 16. You have to be careful with that, because you got to be able to check your desire, because your desires can get you in trouble. Your desires can lead you in a place you don't need to be going because you leave them unchecked. Everything you desire ain't good for you. Ezekiel 16 about 40. Everything you desire ain't good for you. Just because you want something don't mean you should have it. Some of you know that with your children. Your children want a lot of things, and you keep them from stuff because you know it ain't going to be no good for them. And y'all try to keep you from stuff because he know it ain't gonna be no good for you. That's why the book shows you that when he done with you, he just let you go ahead and chase after what you want. He let you have it, and he let you feel like you on top of the world with him because you got what you wanted, and he blessed you for it. Yeah, the book says he give the righteous the desire of their heart, but he also says that he give you things according to his will when you pray for it. So you have to be paying attention and examine yourself that the things that you desire are in line with his will. And if the things that you are desiring are outside of his will, then you might want to step away from them things on your own versus waiting for him to remove them from you. You might want to slide on out the way and say, I'm not going to mess with that. I'm not going to go after that because that's not according to his will. This is not going to work out for my good. This is going to lead me in transgression, sin, and degradation and destruction. But we don't look at it that way because we want something. So because we want something, we will put it in our own minds that this is Yah directing you to this when this is what you want. So then he just go ahead and let you have it. Anything that leads you outside of his will, he ain't got nothing to do with. Anything that you got to do outside of his will to get or to keep something, he ain't got nothing to do with it. I don't care how much you like it. I don't care how much it feels good. I don't care how much it look good. I don't care how much you get and what you want. If it causes you to get outside of his will, that means that Yah is the minister of sin. Paul already told you that in Galatians chapter 2. Is Hamashiach the minister of sin? Elohim forbid. That man ain't teaching you and leading you in no type of direction like that. He not do. Then your Elohim is unjust at that point, and that he ought to kill himself according to his own word for doing so, because the book say whoever lead the righteous in the wrong way will fall in a pit they self. So if this man is leading you into a pit to lead you in a wrong way to get you what you want, then according to his own word, he ought to die and go to hell himself. So we know he's not going against his own word. We know he's not going to do that. So we know this man is not going to take you in no direction that's going to lead you away from him. If it's taking you away from him, he ain't got nothing to do with it. That's all you. You know what I'm saying? And you got to be real with yourself and acknowledge that. If it's taking you away from him, that's all you. He ain't got nothing to do with it. I don't care how much you like it. I don't care how much you want it. He ain't got nothing to do with that. If you had to sin to get it, he ain't got nothing to do with it. Ain't no iniquity with our Elohim. We tell you that in too many places. Ezekiel 16 and 40. He said, they shall also bring up a company against thee, and they shall stone thee with stones, and thrust thee through with swords, their swords. They shall burn thine houses with fire, and execute judgments upon thee in the sight of many women, and I will cause thee to cease from playing the harlot. Thou also shalt give no hire any more. And if that sounded something familiar to you, that's some people, that company with that swords and staves coming up against them. You know they stoned that man with stones, and you know they thrust him through the side with their swords. You know they burnt down his house, because he told you in John chapter 2 that his body was the house. You know he was hit with the furnace of affliction. You know that he executed many judgments in the sight of many women and many people, according to Zechariah chapter 12. And he had to cease from playing the harlot at that point. Only reason why we say that, because remember he told you in Numbers chapter 14, he'll kill the people as one man. So again, this is taking in the point of this man is paying a consequence of which you could not pay. And because you could not pay that, you ought to be thankful and you ought to move accordingly. It's just like we were talking about this the other day, right? When a nigga been immersed, you ain't got no business going sideways. You know what I'm saying? Because you done already sat back and said, I have acknowledged to die and I'm a partaker of that covenant. It doesn't mean that there's not a space for forgiveness for you if you did. But you know what I'm saying? This is a difference. You ain't never been immersed. Your sins ain't never been washed away. You have not technically actually offered yourself and died. So the likelihood of you actually getting repentance versus someone who has may be a little high. Because if you done sat back and died to been immersed, you done say that I have sacrificed myself to Elohim. I have put my body to death. You know what I'm saying? That's what you're saying. You coming up out the water, you say you're a new creature. I ain't doing that no more. That's why we went over that, what we talked about in Ezekiel 37 last week. I've slain them. The immersion is your death. That's when you're slain. You ain't supposed to got how you live it in sin and you supposed to be dead to it. Doesn't make any sense. That's why he tell him you're not going to play the harlot no more. He took on all the sins of Yasharal, so for all intents and purposes, he was a harlot. Why do we know he's a harlot? Because they said he was a blasphemer. So they say he was playing the whore. Laying down with many gods, that's how they viewed him. Remember, they say he was doing things by Beelzebub. That's how they viewed him. Verse 42. So I'll make my fury towards thee to rest, and my jealousy shall depart from thee, and I will be quiet and will be no more angry. When the master died, he was quiet, he was no more angry. The anger had done passed. He said, if he spared not his own son, what you think he gonna do on our end? Remember, he say what he chastised is for our righteousness. It's for our sake. It's not for our enjoyment. It's for us to be partakers of the peaceable fruits of righteousness. He'll cause that fury to rest. He caused that fury to rest from off of Yahusha after the fury, after the chastisement, after his death, after the execution of judgment. He says, because thou hast not remembered the days of thy youth, but hast fretted me in all those things. Behold, therefore I will also recompense thy way upon thy head, saith Yahuwah Elohim. And thou shalt not commit this lewdness above all thy abominations. Behold, everyone that use proverb shall use this proverb against thee, as is the mother, so is her daughter. Thou art thy mother's daughter that loathe her husband and her children, and thou art the sister of thy sisters, which loathe their husbands and their children. And your mother was a Hittite, and your father was an Amorite. And y'all already know when he's telling you this here, he talking about Abraham and Sarah. Now he sat back and just told you right is that as is the mother, so is her daughter. And so that's why we sit back looking at that when we see Ahab's daughter. Jezebel was her mama, and so was her mama, so she was. We'll get in the deeper context of what this Ezekiel 16 talking about, y'all willing. On the Shabbat, matter of fact, because it's 8:11. I don't want to draw us off and we don't actually finish with Jehoram. So file that in your mind. Mark it. File it in your mental Rolodex. Y'all willing, we'll be back. But let's come back over here to 2 Chronicles 21. I really want y'all to ponder on that one there because there's something to that. Especially when he make mention of who your parents were. He said how you loathed your husband. You hated your husband. You know what I'm saying? You refuse to submit to him. You refuse to obey him. You refuse to listen to him. And now with Jezebel. You know what I'm saying? How do we know that? Let's look at Revelation 2 again to show you what type of woman Jezebel is. Just show you what type of woman Jezebel is. How she loathed her husband. And this is what she was teaching to Yasharal, which caused Yasharal to loathe her husband. And remember that Jehoram is a Malik of Yehuda, not of Yasharal. So he coming from the line that it actually produced righteous kings. Jehoshaphat was his daddy. It also can show you that what can happen if you choose the wrong woman. You know what I'm saying? I told y'all this in the past. There are not many cautionary tales for a woman if she picked the wrong man in the book. It honestly is not. You know what I'm saying? I couldn't pull up and pull that up if I wanted to. There's not even too many instances I can't recall off the top of my head of a woman choosing a man anywhere in the word for her mate. You know what I'm saying? But there are numerous cautionary tales about a man picking the wrong woman. You know what I'm saying? They are numerous. And that picking the wrong woman could be detrimental to your life and your eternal life. Do you know what I'm saying? It was detrimental to Solomon as it caused the kingdom to split. We see it's detrimental to Jehoram. It was detrimental to Ahab. It's been detrimental to a lot of men in this word. And it's not no knock on women. It's the type of woman that you choose. You know what I'm saying? That's it. That has nothing to do with the female gender. It's the type of woman that you choose. You pick the wrong woman and she can tear down everything you got going on. Everything you got going on. That's why the book say a virtuous woman, her price is far above rubies, because her husband's heart can safely trust in her, because he has no need of spoil. He know that this woman will not do any harm to him, that he can rest in shalom because he trusts this woman, that she gonna roll. You see what Job had to do with his wife. He had to tell his wife, you talking like one of them foolish women. Around here talking about you might as well curse Elohim and die. You sound retarded. You know what I'm saying? The type of woman that you choose, it will really dictate the course and direction of where your life is going to go. You pick a spoiled, self-centered, selfish, rebellious, disobedient woman, and you're going to have a problem. You're going to have a real live problem. And whatever you, and it ain't even got to be in no word, and whatever you're trying to accomplish. You know what I'm saying? See, on the flip side, for a woman has got to know that this man can lead, and she'll submit. If she's any type of real woman, she's going to submit herself to this man if he has any ability to do the things that a man is supposed to do. That's not even hard for a woman to do, because that's her nature to submit, unless she's wicked. Her nature is to submit. You show yourself a man and she's a real woman, and she will submit to you, and she will follow you, and she will humble herself to you. That's nothing. That just takes you being a man if she's a real woman. But it's you as a man, you supposed to be able to determine if she's a real woman or not. That ain't her job to show you. Well, it's her job to show you she's a real woman and something to respect, but you supposed to be able to have the skill and discernment to tell the difference between the two, because you the man. Revelation chapter 2, verse 20. Now, in fact, before I continue, that's why the book say, the woman's heart's like snares and nets, and her hands are like bands, and he that please Elohim shall escape from her, but the sinner shall be taken by her. If you please Elohim, even if you pick the wrong woman, he'll let you get away from her. If you don't please her, he gonna let that woman take you down. It say, notwithstanding, I have a few things against thee, because thou suffered that woman Jezebel, which called herself a prophetess, to teach and seduce my servants to commit fornication, and to eat things sacrificed unto idols. And I gave her space to repent of her fornication, and she repented not. Behold, I will cast her into a bed, and them that commit adultery with her into great tribulation, except they repent of their deeds. And I will kill her children with death, and all the synagogue shall know that I am he which search the reins and hearts, and I will give unto every one of you according to your works. And most high willing, when we go back and we look at the execution of judgment upon Ahab's house, we'll be going back to that particular verse, and you will see why the master said that, because the master killed all of Jezebel's children in real life. He killed them all, because that was the judgment that he pronounced upon Ahab. He was going to kill everything that pissed against the wall, because these women were convincing the people to commit fornication, and Ahab was allowing it to happen, and Jehoram was allowing it to happen. They weren't stopping them. They were letting them do it. Come on back to 2 Chronicles 21. And the only reason, as we already read in verse 7, the only reason that Yah did not take this nigga out was because of David. David was the only thing that was sparing these niggas. That was it. And that's sitting back showing you the similitude and the parallel of Hamashiach in the midst of the parallel of the kingdom. Because even though we were transgressing and sinning against Elohim, the only thing that's sparing us is Mashiach. He the only reason why you ain't wiped out. Only reason why he didn't wipe out Yehuda is because of David. He tell you that. I got to leave a light for David, my servant, say. That's what it say, right? Let's go ahead and look at John 12 then. He had to leave it for this man. And this man to turn around to why you even disrespecting and disobeying this man's word. And I'm talking about us as a whole. Not us, not anybody individually. I'm talking about our people as a whole. I don't care where we at in the four corners. It's because of this man that he ain't took us out. It's the same thing. It's a favor. It's a gift that nobody earned. The favor that they were getting for him not to take Yehuda out was because of David. Matter of fact, since I said that, we'll go to Isaiah 55 right after that. John chapter 12, verse 34, I want to say. John 12 and 34. The people answered him, we have heard out of the Torah that Mashiach abide forever. How say thou, the Son of Man must be lifted up? Who is this Son of Man? Then Yahushua said unto them, yet a little while the light is with you, walk while you have the light, lest darkness come upon you. For he that walk in darkness know not whither he go. While you have light, believe in the light, that you may be sons of light, children of light. These things spake Yahushua, and departed, and did hide himself from them. Now let's look at before, I forgot what I mentioned, but I want 1 Thessalonians chapter 5 right about now though. Or Isaiah 55. I want 1 Thessalonians chapter 5 right now though. Knowing that he left a light for his servant David, and the covenant that he made for him. This man left life in Jerusalem. This is why the master had to be crucified in Jerusalem, because this is the place where he left light or life at. This is the city of Shalom, the city of rest. That's why he told you to come to him and get rest. And it's imperative that you realize why you're being spared. Don't walk in the ways of Ahab. Don't follow after Jezebel. Don't. And I'm talking about the women too. Don't marry Jezebel's daughter. Meaning, don't join yourself to a strange god. Don't join yourself to idolaters. Keep in mind that evil communications will corrupt your behavior. I don't care how strong you think you are. I don't care how wise you think you are. You are flesh and blood, dust and ashes. And you can be tempted and pulled and strayed by emotional and mental ties to other people. If Solomon, who was the wisest man that ever walked the earth, got because of the love that he had for his strange wives, any of us are susceptible at any time. Do you know what I'm saying? And only two things are going to happen. Y'all going to have mercy and remove you from that situation, or you're going to have to remove yourself from that situation. And I didn't want to mention this one, but we're going to have to mention it. Or he going to let you have that and let it be for your destruction. That's it. That's why I ain't want to mention the last part. Let's put the last part to the side, because we don't even want to even go that far. We want to go ahead and nip it in the bud, unless it's a situation where Yah's delivering you from something before you even get a good inclination of how destructive that situation could be for you while you're in the midst of it, and you don't see it till the end, till you see later after you're removed from it. But if you can see that this situation is going to be destructive to your soul's salvation, then it would be imperative for you to separate yourself from it if saving your soul is truly your desire. Because you can't love nobody to salvation, man. I don't care what you think. You can't love them to that. I put it to you this way. I just told Will this other day, and it's a true scenario. If you have sex with a woman, you're not going to win that woman to that word. I guarantee you that there. If she wasn't on it and you was, and you went and slept with her, you're not going to win that woman to that word. That's not going to happen. You know what I'm saying? She don't believe you. She don't trust. And it's even more so with a man. Because if you as a woman say, this is what I'm on, but you let him come up inside of you, you're not going to be able to sway that man to that. This has already been ruined. He doesn't have a reason to even stand for anything because you haven't. She doesn't have a reason to stand for anything because he hasn't. It's not going to happen. The only scenario where it could come close is if both of you come in at the same time and you ain't really know no better, and that's how that went down. But if one knew and the other didn't, and you sitting with them, you're not going to win that person. That's highly unlikely. I'm not going to say it's impossible. It's highly unlikely. It's highly, highly unlikely, because you have already transferred your power over to them, and basically they have become your God, because you are serving their will and their desire and have sacrificed the will and desire of the power of what you claim to believe in. So you don't realize that your God has become your belly, therefore their belly has become your God, because you serving their desires. This is why he tell you, don't be deceived that evil communications corrupt good manners. This is why he tell you, don't be unequally yoked with unbelievers. This is why he tell you, what fellowship have Mashiach with Belial, and what fellowship has righteousness with unrighteousness, and what agreement does have light with darkness, and what agreement does the temple of Elohim have with idols. It's not going to be able to work, because one has to win. One of them has to win. And once you have allowed this person to win you over through sin, you can't win them to righteousness after that. How is that going to work? We think we can love people to salvation after you've been sinning with them. No. You're going to have to separate yourself and show them that you love Yah more than you love them. And if they truly love Yah and then they truly love you, then they'll come along with that. But if they don't, they're going to go find somebody who's going to sin with them. Bottom line, that's what they're going to do. You don't want to sin? I'll find somebody who will. Oh, you don't want to give me no more butt? I'll find a chick who will give me some butt. Oh, you don't want to give me no more penis? I'll find a nigga who will. Oh, you don't want to break the Sabbath with me? I'll find somebody who will. You don't want to get drunk and high with me? I'll find somebody who will. That's why the book tell you in Peter, he said they got evil things to speak of you because you don't run to the same excess of riot. So they want to talk about you because you're not doing what they doing. You know what I'm saying? Ain't no way in the world. Don't let nobody fool you like that, man. But hey, y'all can use the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding that you have, and you better use the discernment that you have, because it can wind you up in a place you don't want to be in. I don't see the reason of going. 1 Thessalonians chapter 5. I just don't see no reason of going. I know it's going to hurt. It ain't going to feel good. Especially if you're watching somebody you love destroy themselves spiritually. It's not going to feel good to watch it. It's not going to feel good to know that there's nothing you can do to stop it. You know what I'm saying? But you're going to have to suck it up and deal with it. You're going to have to suck it up and deal with it. I ain't saying it's going to be easy, and I ain't saying it's going to feel good. But you're going to have to suck it up and deal with it. If saving yourself is what matters. If you don't care about saving yourself, then you ain't got to do nothing. 1 Thessalonians chapter 5. Verse 4. But ye brethren are not in darkness, that the day should overtake you as a thief. You are all the children of light, and are the children of the day. We are not of the night, nor of darkness. Therefore let us not sleep as do others, but let us watch and be sober. For they that sleep, sleep in the night, and they that be drunken are drunken in the night. But let us who are of the day be sober, putting on the breastplate of faith and love, and for a helmet, the hope of salvation. So you need to make sure you got that word in your heart and that faith in your brain. That's the only thing that's going to be able to spare you. Yeah, Ram didn't possess that. He didn't care. He cared about carnal things. That's why I tell you in Ephesians, that's why Paul wrote into him and said, don't have no fellowship with the unfruitful works of darkness, but rather expose them. And you know, it's always funny, right? I put it this way. This is what I find funny to me, right? A nigga ain't got no problem if somebody done did something wrong out to the outside and be like, okay, this nigga did something wrong. And they gonna mention it and they gonna point it. But if they did something wrong, niggas get upset if you speak on it. But it was never a problem when you were speaking on somebody else. If you did something wrong and you acknowledged it with humility, say, okay, I was wrong for that. I acknowledge that. I did that. Boom. And a nigga speak on it. You can't really say nothing if you did that. If that's what you did, then that's what you did. Now, it's different if they just throwing stuff in your face and that junk done passed. Like time done elapsed, you know what I'm saying? All right, you need to let that go. Ain't no need for you to keep throwing that in my face, you know what I'm saying? I already acknowledged my error on that. You know what I'm saying? You don't need to do all that. But the main reason when I mention that is niggas who like to cover stuff up, and they don't want the stuff that they covering up to be mentioned, mainly because they care about how they look in public. You know what I'm saying? Don't never be concerned about how you look like in public. You need to be concerned about how you look like in Shamahim, how you look in heaven. That's what you need to be concerned with. Don't worry about how you look in the eyesight of men, because men gonna say something about you no matter what you do. You know what I'm saying? They gonna have something to say. Niggas gonna say something, whether it be good, whether it be bad, whether they be indifferent. So you can't be concerned with it. You need to remember that it's your eternal life, not just your natural life. This is your eternal life. You need to guard it preciously. You know what I'm saying? Because one wrong decision could scar you forever. Come on back to 2 Chronicles 21. Let's see what this boy here got going on. He got some wars going on. We ain't gonna get to Ahaziah today. He got some, because it's almost 8:30, and I'm not finna drag y'all all night. We in verse 8. In his days, hold on, y'all. Hey, all right, and we putting in work right now, man. Yeah, I said I'm preaching right now, putting in work. So you can get on. I'm gonna get at you later.
My bad, man. I apologize, bro.
You all right? You ain't know. Yeah. And it says, in his days, the Edomites revolted from under the dominion of Yehuda and made themselves a king. And you know, that's just what our people did during the time of Hamashiach. See, that's what we like to do. We like to rebel and set our own selves up to be king. That's what we like to do. See, then Jehoram went forth with his princes and his chariots with him, and he rose up by night and smote the Edomites, which compassed him and the captains of the chariots. So the Edomites revolted from under the hand of Yehuda unto this day. The same time also did Libnah revolt from under his hand, because he had forsaken Yahuwah Elohim of his fathers. Now this is why these people are revolting. Y'all would have kept these people under subjection up under this man, and he would have obeyed. These people were not just y'all moved these people to revolt. And the reason why I mention this here is because your disobedience can cause why you have trouble in your life. Because there was no war. There was no. Solomon didn't have any adversaries until he married these strange women, and he set up groves and idols all through the land. Therefore, he rose up adversaries from him out of Mizraim and from and out of Edom because of what he did. Edom and Libnah would have stayed under Jehoram's subjection if he would have obeyed, but because he forsake Yahuwah, he had to get this man a little trouble in his lifetime. See, let me show you what I'm talking about. Come over here to 1 Peter chapter 2. See, this is what this is. See, and this is what people do, right? You get a little trouble, you get a little sorrow for what you did wrong, and you want someone to have compassion and have mercy on you, and no, you're not going to get that. You're not supposed to get that if you're getting buffeted for your faults. You did that. You brought that on yourself. You're going to have to take that. It's different if you ain't did nothing wrong. If you ain't did nothing wrong, then the people supposed to be there for you and ride for you and stand by you and give you strength while you go through that. But if you did something wrong, you got to be able to take that punishment of what he given to you, that you might learn not to transgress. You know what I'm saying? It's like this here, right? You don't learn anything if somebody come to try to save you in the midst of what you're being reprimanded for. The purpose of the reprimand is for you to learn that there are consequences for negative behavior. You know what I'm saying? And that then from the learning of the consequences, you would learn not to do that anymore. Like we just read in Revelation 2. He said, I gave her space to repent of her deeds, and she didn't. Therefore, I got to kill her kids if she don't. 1 Peter chapter 2. This man is very, very merciful, and his long suffering is abundant. You know what I'm saying? He gives a long leash, longer than what men deserve. It may not seem long to us according to our natural minds, but he gives a long leash with men, a very long one. You know what I'm saying? And we test this man repeatedly in his patience, and that junk ain't right. I'm talking about on our end. On our end. On our end. I want to read verse 11 first, because we need to keep this in mind. I didn't feel like reading verse 11. We'll drop down because I just caught my attention out of the corner of my eye. Dearly beloved, I beseech you as strangers and pilgrims, abstain from fleshly lusts which war against the soul. Those desires that Jehoram had for the gold, for the silver, for the precious things in the fenced cities, caused him to commit sin and slay his brothers. He couldn't abstain from he got the kingdom. Do you not realize getting the kingdom, that all the gold, the silver, the precious things were going to be his anyway. And of course, if you did catch, yes, there is a similitude to that with the firstborn son getting the kingdom, but we'll revisit that, y'all willing, in the near future. We won't get that tonight. We're just focusing on him and his behavior and the negative consequences of his behavior, because that's what you're going to see with, unfortunately, not what we're going to see, but what we have seen with a majority of these kings. We done looked at a lot of kings from both kingdoms, and we've only seen two righteous men, Asa and Jehoshaphat. And even with Asa and Jehoshaphat, they did some stupid stuff. But you only seen two righteous men. You done seen Baasha, you done seen Omri, you know what I'm saying? You done seen I'm finna mispronounce his name, the dude at the end of 1 Kings 22. You looking at Jehoram. You know what I'm saying? And there's about two of them that I'm forgetting, that we done looked at. All these men were wicked. All these men were wicked. All of them. The only two men is you seen Asa and Jehoshaphat trying to get the people to return. And the only reason why Yehuda was spared was because of David. Because of a promise that he made to David, showing you the favor of a Mashiach even then. And we got to get to Isaiah 55. I almost forgot about it. But let me finish it. 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 11. Let me read that again, though. Dearly beloved, I beseech you as strangers and pilgrims, abstain from fleshly lust which war against the soul. Let me tell y'all something, right? This just caught my mind, right? It's a brother and his fiance, his old lady, whatever you want to call it, on my page, right? This true story. I couldn't make this up if I wanted to. This true story. This nigga posted, I know it's a documentary going out on Netflix called What the Hell. I don't have Netflix, so I won't be seeing it. So it's causing a lot of people not to want to eat meat based off what's in it. That's your personal choice and decision. I ain't got nothing to do with that. I'm not going vegan personally, you know what I'm saying? I don't care what damn nigga think. You know what I'm talking about? But if an individual wants to do that, I'm not going to knock you for it. It's your body. You eat what you want to eat. You know what I'm saying? You don't want to eat meat, so be it. You want to eat it, so be it. I don't care. You know what I'm saying? Us being Israelites, being the seed of Yasharah, being Abarim, being Hebrews, we know if we see a statement from somebody who followed the book using the word unclean, the first thing you're going to think about is sin, transgression. That's where our minds are trained at when we hear unclean. If you have bodily fluid, whether it be seminal fluid, whether it be pus from a wound, whether it be leprosy, whether it be certain type of animals, you know what I'm talking about? We know that person is unclean, and we know no unclean thing can enter into the kingdom of Elohim. We know this is how our mind works now. When we learn the word, we learn the ways of Elohim. We understand that. So this man makes the statement that there's no meat, that is all meat is unclean, and then acts shocked when people are telling him it's not a sin to eat meat, and he just saying it's not healthy. Well, of course you should have just stated that it's not healthy, because you stating that it's unclean, you are by product implying that it's sin. But you trying to use plausible deniability when you press. See, I don't like that, because that's disingenuous and insulting to a person's intelligence, because you know what words you're using and why you used it, and you're playing semantics when they call you on it. But an individual used this 1 Peter 2 and 11 to see the book say you shouldn't eat meat because he stay abstained from fleshly lust. And it's niggas that believe that. This man is not talking about eating old food. This man is literally talking about the desires of man, the desires of a carnal man, a fleshly man, flesh and blood, that we have to learn to abstain ourselves from the things that the flesh desires that are contrary to the word. To say that meat is contrary to the word is to say that what Yah has deemed as good is evil, and that means the book say you ought to be destroyed. I said this in the past, I'll say it again. It's better to say, I don't believe the meat, how it is currently being packed, sold, delivered, and farmed in this day and age, that it is a healthy and wise decision for a man to eat it. That is wisdom in imparting that to another person, if you feel like that is the course of action that a man or woman should take. But to tell them that it is unclean, or that you'll be more spiritual, you are implying that you have a book to support your personal opinion. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to tell a nigga he more spiritual because he eat meat. I'm not going to tell a nigga he more spiritual because he vegan. That doesn't make you more spiritual. What makes you more spiritual is a concrete and sincere trust, hope, belief, service, and sacrifice by a product that will sanctify you to the living Elohim. That will make you spiritual. It's a lot of niggas out here vegan that are wicked as the day is long. That's in the word. Screw out it. So why these niggas who don't believe the word who vegan, why they ain't spiritual then? That doesn't make common sense. That doesn't make common sense. I know a nigga right now who vegan, who in the word, teach the word, nigga wicked. You know what I'm saying? Without question. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. So why this nigga ain't spiritual? This nigga ain't never ate meat since I known the nigga. I done known him about 6 years. Nevertheless, verse 12. Having your behavior honest among the Gentiles, that whereas they speak against you as evildoers, that they may by your good works, which they shall behold, esteem Elohim in the day of visitation. And that's why you got to abstain yourself from your fleshly lust. Because if you keep your behavior honest in the sight of these Gentiles, you condemning them. You condemning them. That while they speaking evil of you, Elohim being esteemed. You can't be worried about pleasing everybody. You're not going to, most of y'all before you came in the world, you ain't care about pleasing anybody. You didn't care what nobody thought about you. You didn't care if people accepted you. But then when you started dealing with the words, you started to want to crave acceptance from people. And I don't understand that. Which means deep down you probably wanted acceptance from people before you got in the word. But take that craving and acceptance and longing and craving to be loved by a person and put that towards y'all. And I guarantee you that hole will be filled way better than any man, woman, or child could ever feel it. And then quite possibly the love that you desire in the natural form very well may come your way. But see, because we're not seeking the kingdom of Elohim first, the things that we desiring are not being added on to us because we seeking these natural things before we seek him. It's nothing for this man to put money in your pocket. It's nothing for this man to take you from a dunghill and sit you amongst princes. It's nothing for this man to give you a spouse. It's nothing for this man to open up the womb of a barren woman. It's nothing for this man to do that. Is there anything too hard for y'all? That's what the book says. It's nothing for this man to do that. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. But what is something is when we put all our hope, all our trust, all our love, all our desire, all our strength, and all our being towards him. That takes something. And that takes an activation of faith, if only which few will actually receive from on high to do so. I pray that each and every one of you are caught in that few. Nevertheless, drop down about verse 18. Make it 19. 1 Peter 2 and 19. For this is thankworthy if a man for conscience towards Elohim endure grief, suffering wrongfully. For what esteem is it when you be buffeted for your faults, you shall take it patiently. But if when you do well and suffer for it, you take it patiently, this is acceptable with Elohim. Jehoram would get bust upside his head because of his faults. That's why he's like, why are these people not? Why are these people revolting? Why they not listening? Why they not following? It's because you have forsaken Yah. So if you wondering why is this not, and that doesn't mean it's because stuff got rough for Job and Job didn't do anything wrong. But see, Job is an example of that. He took it patiently, and that was acceptable with Elohim at the end. You know, if you're dealing with something that is an adverse situation, you would know if you had done committed sin, and sin was the reason of why you, and I ain't talking about a sin you did 5, 10, 15 years ago. You know what I'm saying? We ain't talking about something like that. You know what you doing and what you consistently been doing over an extended period of time. If it is for or against the word of Elohim, you know. You know what I'm saying? I don't know, but you know, and you know Yah knows. So if you done something and you're wrong, then you need to take your punishment for it and just accept it, because there's no thankness, there's no esteem in that, there's no honor in that. Take your chastisement, learn from what you did wrong, see what it is, and don't do it again. You know what I'm saying? Because truth be told, all I can do is minister the word. If you tell me what it is, I can give you the tools to be able to fix it, but I can't fix it for you. I can only give you the tools. You got to actually do the labor. I can't do the labor. I can't give you the tools and do the labor. I can only give you the tools. You got to do the work. that goes for anybody. That goes for myself. It goes for anybody. There's something wrong. Somebody can give you the tools. Yah gives you the tools to save your soul. You got to do the labor. So let's see that in here. Hebrews chapter 4. You got to do the labor. He can only give you the tools. He ain't gonna do it for you. What is it? Hebrew 4? I'll say about verse 7, I suppose. He said, again, he limited a certain day, saying in David, today after so long a time, as it is said, today if you will hear his voice, harden not your hearts. For if Yahushua had given them rest, he would not have afterward have spoken of another day. There remained therefore a rest to the people of Elohim. For he that is entered into his rest, he have also ceased from his own works, as Elohim did from his. Let us labor therefore to enter into that rest, lest any man fall after the same example of unbelief. We look at the trouble that Ahab catching. That Jehoram is catching. He catching it because of his unbelief. He didn't believe. Let's swing back around here to verse 12 of 2 Chronicles 21, verse 12. Because we about to finna run this chapter out and be done with it. He said, there came a writing to him from Elijah the prophet, saying, thus saith Yahuwah Elohim of David thy father, because thou hast not walked in the ways of Jehoshaphat thy father, nor in the ways of Asa Malach of Yehuda, the two righteous men that we mentioned, but have walked in the way of the malice of Yasharal, and has made Yehuda and inhabitants of Jerusalem to go a whoring, like to the whoredoms of the house of Ahab, which goes back to what we were looking at in Ezekiel 16. And also hast slain thy brethren of thy father's house, which were better than thyself. So then not only that, you killed men that were more righteous than you. Behold, with a great plague will Yahuwah smite thy people, and thy children, and thy wives, and thy goods. And thou shalt have a great sickness by disease of thy bowels, until thy bowels fall out by reason of the sickness day by day. Moreover, Yahuwah stirred up against Jehoram the Ruach of the Philistines and of the Arabians that were near the Ethiopians, and they came up into Yehuda and brake into it and carried away all the substance that was found in the king's house, and his sons also, and his wives, so that there was never a son left him, save Jehoahaz the youngest of his sons. And after all this, Yahuwah smote him in his bowels with the incurable disease. And it came to pass in the process of time, at the end of 2 years, his bowels fell out by reason of his sickness. So he died of a sore disease, and his people made no burning for him, like the burning of his fathers. 30 and 2 years old was he when he began to reign, and he reigned in Jerusalem 8 years, and departed without being desired. Howbeit they buried him in the city of David, but not in the sepulchre of the kings. So all that, he could swing back over here to 1 Kings 16. All that he did, he got himself cut off, got a disease, and that junk cost his whole family. His whole family got brought down based on his disobedience. Because he had to take them all down. He married Jezebel's daughter, so that's what you get. And because he married Jezebel, he said he didn't follow after Asa. He didn't follow after Yehuda. He didn't follow after Jehoshaphat. He followed after Ahab and his ways. And it was detrimental to him and his household. And only one son got spared because of it. One son. Hold on, I went past it. Just make sure we catch this chapter in Kings. Hello? Hello? What's happening? Yeah, I think we already passed his story in Kings. Oh, I'm tripping. 2 Kings chapter 8. 2 Kings chapter 8. I think we looked at it already, but we'll hit that part again just so you can see what the other part of the story at. That's a little shorter. And in the 5th year of Jehoram, the son of Ahab, Malach of Yasharal, Jehoshaphat, being then Malach of Yehuda, Jehoram the son of Jehoshaphat, Malach of Yehuda, began to reign. 30 and 2 years old was he when he began to reign, and he reigned 8 years in Jerusalem. He walked in the ways of the Malachs of Yasharal, as did the house of Ahab, for the daughter of Ahab was his wife, and he did evil in the sight of Yahuwah. And Yahuwah would not destroy Yehuda for David his servant's sake, as he promised to give him always a light unto his children, And in his days Edom revolted from under the hand of Yehuda and made Amalek over themselves. So Jehoram went over to Zaire and all his chariots with him, and he rose by night and smote the Edomites which compassed him about, and the captains of the chariots, and the people fled to their tents. Yet Edom revolted from under the hand of Yehuda unto this day. Then Libnah revolted at the same time. And it said, and the rest of the acts of Jehoram and all that he did, are they not written in the book of the chronicles of the Maleks of Yehuda? And Jehoram slept with his fathers and was buried with his fathers in the city of David. And Ahaziah his son reigned in his stead. And when we get to that, you'll see that his son was a wicked nigga as well. But let's come over here to John chapter 1, and we'll start right there at John chapter 1. Remember, he said he left a light always for his people in Jerusalem because of his servant David. But we just a rehashing of what happened to Jehoram. That wicked woman got him. John 1:1, that wicked woman got him. And it influenced him to follow after the way of Ahab, or the way of her fathers, versus following after the way of his fathers. And truth be told, that's what done happened with us as a people. We decided to follow after the ways of the nation's fathers versus following the way after our Father. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with Elohim, and the Word was Elohim, and the same was in the beginning with Elohim. All things were made by him, and without him was not anything that was made. In him was life, and the life was the light of men. And the light shined in the darkness, and the darkness comprehended not. I did mention Isaiah 55, and we did not grab that, so we do need to grab that. David was that the light in Jerusalem, so to speak, because of his obedience to Yah. He was a man after Yah's own heart. He walked into that, and therefore he was that light in the hill, or a light in the city, and his work shined among men, and Elohim was esteemed in all the things that David did. And then the Mashiach comes through to be the fulfillment of the light that he left. Jehoram and the rest of these kings that we've been looking at, they had no desire to do any of those things, and therefore they were seeking to put the light out of Jerusalem. And if it wasn't only because it was David, he left one there. Isaiah 55 and verse 1, I suppose. Ho, everyone that thirsts, come ye to the waters, and he that have no money, come ye buy and eat. Come buy wine and milk without money and without price. Wherefore do you spend money for that which is not bread, and you labor for that which satisfied not? Hearken diligently unto me, and eat ye that which is good, and let your soul delight itself in his fatness. Now that just hit my head, right? When he just said, why do you labor for that which that satisfieth not? And that kind of goes back to what Paul said, that what I ought not do, I do, and that what I should do, I don't do. Because we make a labor. Why he said the master told you the flesh profiteth nothing, is the ruach that quickeneth. You're doing all this work and all these things that are contrary to the word, and yet you're not satisfied. And why are you not satisfied? Because you're laboring for the wrong thing. You're laboring for meat that perishes. Why he told you labor not for the meat that perish, but the meat that endure to everlasting life. Once you sit back and you labor for the only man that can satisfy you, then your life will begin to fall in place. As long as you begin to labor after things that don't satisfy, then you'll never be satisfied. Which is why he told you godliness with contentment is great gain. That's why we read that. People who think godliness is gain, who have that perverse and corrupt mind, they're never content. They're never satisfied. They're laboring for something that cannot quench what they're looking for. Incline your ear and come unto me, hear, and your soul shall live, and I will make an everlasting covenant with you, even the sure mercies of David. Behold, I have given him for a witness to the people, and a leader and a commander to the people. Behold, thou shalt call a nation that thou know not, and nations that knew not thee shall run unto thee, because of Yahuwah thy Elohim, and for the Kadesh one of Yasharal, for he have esteemed thee. Seek ye Yah while he may be found, call upon him while he is near. Let the wicked forsake his way, and the unrighteous man his thoughts, and let him return unto Yahuwah, and he will have mercy upon him, and to our Elohim, for he will abundantly pardon. So hallelujah for Yahushua. We start right there though. Y'all understood all that? I wish this